Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to Synchronicity Web TV. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and this is your moment of synchronicity. Well, I'm so excited to celebrate with you today, Linda Kubota Byrd. Now, Linda, I got to tell you, she is a superstar in astrology. She's the president of one of the big orgs in astrology as well. And she's just somebody that I have seen for a while doing astrology from the heart and combining different types of astrologies that ultimately are about tapping into the chart differently in some way. You know, I have spoken before about Alan Leo and his work, Esoteric Astrology. And in this book, he says that, and he's one of our big dog godfathers in modern astrology. But he says that your consciousness changes the way that you experience your chart. And this is something that Linda explores thoroughly as part of her work and has been for so many years. So I think that this talk is going to help us to see our own charts so differently. But not only that, Linda is coming to Synchronicity University. I'm so excited to announce that she is part of the March 2023 speaker series, where you've got just a couple weeks left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, an unheard of rate to learn from this caliber of astrologer, our wonderful big dog astrologer, Linda Kubota Byrd. Well, Linda, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Nadiya, for inviting me. I'm very honored.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining. I was saying to you that I just love your energy. I love the way that you strive to make people more conscious of their own charts. And I know that you combine a few different astrologies. So here I have that you combine evolutionary, experiential, and transformational astrology. And so can you talk about those astrologies and how it is that you came to bring them together in your work?
Sure. The experiential part came from I was a volunteer with a group that did personal growth workshops, and we used astrology as a basis. And so we were able to kind of actually not even bring astrology into the language until later to help people to see their default settings. And so when it was such a gift, like a shortcut to see how they're wired in a sense, and to help them to understand why they react the way they do. And so the purpose is when you understand that it's your default, then you could be at choice. You can choose to just continue to do that, but when it's unconscious, it's usually more reactive and not very conscious. But when you're aware of it, you can use a higher octave of it. So you consciously use your chart in a different way. So that's the experiential part. And I love doing experiential workshops. It's just people get together, say you get all the earth moons together, and they'll go, oh my God, you do that too? You know, because we all feel like we're a little bit odd. Well, I shouldn't say we all. Some of us.
I do. It's okay.
some of us feel like we're a little bit odd. Just to have the comfort of other people, like a whole group that reacts in the same way, it's kind of like, oh, wow, maybe there's a purpose for all of this. And so that's the experiential part. The transformational part is when you do understand all these things, then it does transform your life, because you're no longer just reacting to everything, but you're consciously aware of things, and you're much more accepting and understanding of others. Because if somebody, take for instance, has a fire moon, and they just explode, you know, like there's this temper thing that goes off, and it's like, oh my gosh. Well, my old self would have thought, because I have a Pisces moon, would have thought, oh my God, if I did that, it would mean blah, blah, blah. Because our only frame of reference is ourself without astrology. When you have astrology, then you understand these other styles. And so you just think, I just think, oh, it must be a fire moon, you know, because it started to get over it in a, not long. And then they forget that they even did it. And so it's helpful to just understand those things about each other. And so I think that's very transformational. It also takes you into another philosophy or another perspective of life, you know, of how we live, and that we're more in control than we think we are, kind of. because we're in control of how we react to things. It's not, we can't control necessarily the circumstance, but we can control our reaction or our response instead of reacting. And then the evolutionary piece I studied with Stephen Forrest. And so it's kind of to see the trajectory of life, I kind of look at life as, I don't necessarily agree totally with Stephen, because I kind of look at life as like a soap opera. So, soap operas end and it's all this trauma drama stuff goes on. And then the next series picks up where you left off. And so the South Node to me is kind of like, it's something that was not finished in the past life. It's something that we're still working on, and that we take that energy and the lessons we learn from that, and we use that to move forward to the North. So there's just, it's a combination. I was thinking this morning in the shower with my transmission booth, I was thinking it's kind of like applied astrology, the way I use astrology. It's kind of, how is it applied in to contribute to living life more consciously. Yeah.
It's incredible how astrology helps us with that. I think of it as seeing your life symbolically. It's like seeing how you live these larger stories, these larger, we can say archetypes, we can say mythologies, but just taking that little bit of a step back, that helps you so much to start to understand how you might use this energy consciously. Just one example, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Mars, for example, right? You get a Mars in your chart, your Mars is very strongly placed, it's making squares all over the place. Well, if you don't tap into that energy consciously, what happens? You get angry all the time, right? Everything really, really gets you going. But if you tap into it consciously, that is so much power, but it becomes about focusing that power in some way. How else might you tap into, if you see a chart and it's got Mars, let's say it's in the 10th, that it's squaring everything. That's not my chart, but I'm just saying I've seen a chart like that. Actually, it was, my friend had a child. And I mean, I was there not there when the child was born, but she was in my life when her child was born, up until the child was maybe 4 or 5. And I remember her telling me, he gets so angry and she doesn't understand it. Like, where does this come from? Because it's not part of their home environment or anything. And I remember saying to her, like, he needs to be in sports. That was my advice at the time. Like, put him in sports. Yeah, because he's got a lot of physical energy. Give him a focus and it'll really help him. And so, yeah, what would you advise in a situation like that?
Well, I'm going to take it back just a little bit, because it depends what sign the Mars is in, obviously. And so when I'm working with a client, it's oftentimes, or when I teach classes, it's like the Mars, the archetype of Mars, of course, is the, Aries. The warrior goes out, it's all decked out in his armor and everything, goes out to conquer. But my Mars is in Pisces. So I say, so my Mars wears like a nightgown. It's a different kind of Mars, the way she or he goes after what it wants. It's more subtle. Well, it can be kind of wimpy, Mars and Pisces, but it operates in a different way. So that when I'm trying to explain, the chart and the planets and their job, then how they do that job depends on the sign they're in. And so, right. And also, of course, all the aspects in the house and all those kind of things are influential for sure. But yeah, just setting the example of helping people to understand how they're players in their play, or they're members of the committee, I call them, how they're predisposed. I think that seems to really help people just to kind of know themselves better, Yeah.
And so it's the philosophical approach with which you come at the chart that makes the difference,
Right.
like with the intention of wanting to see what's happening here and how you can actually transform what is challenging in a way that empowers you.
Absolutely. I think the whole chart, well, I think I look at the chart as energy soup because we're all energy, right? And so the chart just gives you your recipe. And so when you understand what you have as your ingredients and how they interact, I was saying earlier to you, I asked my clients to turn their charts horizontal and imagine that their chart is a round conference table and that all of their planets are their committee members. And so you see, how is your committee? How do they relate? You know? And if you've got oppositions or squares, then you can see automatically how that works. Or you have groups, like I call them cliques or pairs, then you get an energy feeling for that. Who are the members of this clique? Because even when there's a they're not an orb, say the stellium might be, pretty wide orb, but it's still a clique, and remember in high school, if you told one person in the clique, everybody knew. So it's kind of like energetically, if they understand what's going on, like you've got all these planets that they operate together and so forth, then it's kind of like they get the energy of the chart at a different level than just understanding and memorizing and doing it more cookbook style. But it's kind of like it's just the feeling of the planet and how it operates. I think it helps people to kind of get more of a sense of who they are. And my thing is for people to really love who they are because they have something different something unique to offer. It's like we're all notes in the symphony, and if we don't play our note, then not only do we lose, but everybody loses, you know? So, yeah.
And
Did I answer your
also,
question? I'm sorry.
yes, of course. Then your beautiful poetic way, as you would, of course it does. And it's interesting because yes, we're part of that. Everybody's playing their note, but it's like the chart is its own symphony as well. Like you yourself are a symphony, and these different parts of you. I'm like just putting this together right now based on your metaphor, but it's like different instruments. And even if they feel like they're not connecting or they're not in tune with each other, actually there is something there that is working, and I guess it's about being willing to see how that could be working.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just orchestrating. It's like being the orchestra leader for your chart, and so nobody gets left out. You know how if you have a singleton, or you have things, or you have like a big gigantic stellium up here and one little planet down here. This planet's gonna eat the Pisces in me. I was still in Pisces, so it's like the poor little planet, and so giving it voice, I guess.
And so it's interesting because, of course, people have birth charts, but so do places, right? Sometimes we're able to garner the birth chart for a place. And I lived in Mexico for 10 years. 7 of those years were in Cancun. And Cancun is quite a new city. It was founded in April of 1970. That's it, 1970. And I remember just as the pandemic was, just before the pandemic, they had launched all this like Cancun 50, because Cancun was turning 50 and it was such a big deal. And they started having all these carnivals and we were partying so much. And then, of course, everything shut down. That was 2020. Everything, February, all the parties started. And then by the end of March, they had to say, okay, pause. But okay. It's interesting because when you look at the chart, they paused it all. They paused the party, but I hope the party's going on right now still, for those out in Cancun. And I always encourage people to go anyways. It supports not only the local economy, but you're about to learn something about the chart that makes people want to go there even more. And that is, when you look at the chart for Cancun, I'll try to put it up here somewhere. They have this stellium in Taurus. This whole stellium in Taurus that is at the top of the chart, all surrounding a Taurus midheaven. So this cluster of planets in Taurus, right? So what is it that people tend to go to Cancun for? Very Taurian, like fun, enjoyment, right? All very Venusian things. The enjoyment of the physical incarnation. That is a big part of why people go to Cancun, right? To connect with other people and to, get their groove on and go to a resort where you don't have to worry about how much you're eating because it's all inclusive, or how much you're drinking, it's all inclusive, right? But then you have this Jupiter in Scorpio, right at the foundation of the chart, that is opposing all of those Taurian planets. And when I saw that, I felt like, everybody's coming for the party, the Taurus party, but they don't realize that actually this is a place that can change you from the inside out profoundly. And so Cancun means snake's nest. And the main road, Kukulkan, is the snake god of transformation and fertility. And it is a couple of hours away. There's often tours to Chichen Itza, which is a pyramid, which is the Mayan site that is most visited in the world, is Chichen Itza. And what's so interesting is that is a temple to Kukulkan, to the snake god. And I've always thought that, people don't realize how they are honoring the ancient gods. Like they're going there, they're like, oh, cool, a pyramid. But you're actually doing something that thousands, if not, hundreds of thousands of people did for millennia, which was they went there as a temple to honor the snake god. And there you are thinking you're there for all that tourists, but people end up doing all that Jupiter, Scorpio, transformative stuff. And it changes people. Like a trip to Cancun changes people in some way. And that's just a place we're talking about. Now imagine that embodied in a person, right? It's so powerful to consider that. Yeah.
Exactly. And organizations, I'm the new president of NCGR, and it's like this chart. Did you know it's a Pisces? It's got a Pisces sun.
Wow, I didn't know
moon.
That. Yeah.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
It's been very intellectual, right? It's all,
right.
Higher education, astrology education. And but we do have chapters, which is, the Cancer moon, in a sense. This is the interconnection and all of that. But the Pisces piece is, my moon is 5 minutes off of their sun. And so it's like, oh
wow.
boy, looks like it. So I'm really focusing on getting the organization in alignment with the chart, so that we don't lose anything, but we become broader or deeper or well, for lack of a better term, maybe more spiritual in a sense. It is a Pisces sun with a Cazimi Mercury. It's like, oh, okay.
Wow. Okay. I've always thought of, I remember the first, I think it was NCGR conference in 2013 that I went to. And I remember feeling like that was when I started saying my astro fam, my astrology family, my astro family. That was when I started saying it because it really felt like such connection. And so many people that I met at that conference in 2013 are still like good friends today. People that I message, people that, I go back and forth with different ideas. So it makes a lot of sense that the organization has Cancer and Pisces, because then you feel like you're part of one, but it feels like family too. So that's really powerful. And I have loved the events that NCGR has put on, whether it's local or, the big conferences. And so I do want to ask you, if you want, I can edit this out, but what question is coming since you're talking about NCGR? When is the next conference?
Well, you don't have to edit it out because we're not sure yet, but we're shooting for it. We're asking electional astrologers to give us some dates to choose from, instead of the hotels dictating when. This is my big soapbox thing with them. Let's use the chart. Let's use astrology for everything we do. Because first of all, it makes it fun, and secondly, it's just smart to do it because we have this gift. So we're aiming toward the electional astrologers are being told to look at the latter part of 2024, or the beginning of 2025, so that we can find, a date that's good. Were you at the 2012? No, I don't remember the UAC in New Orleans. Were you at that
yes, one? I was there. Yes, absolutely. Yes. That was a lot of fun, wasn't that?
It was a little crazy too. Yeah, because it was really close to an eclipse. And it was anyway, it had all the problems that you can imagine.
Yes.
It felt like Uranus was just hanging over that hotel, just kind of, know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, hello, we're astrologers. Why would we do that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really encouraging us to be more conscious of how we select dates.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also the Pisces piece is it'll just work out, that
Yeah.
magically the hotel will have that time. It'll be fine. I just think that should be the primary and the others secondary. That's my humble
That's the view.
opinion.
Okay, I'll be on the lookout for the call for speakers, because that's one of the things that happens. Like, you pick the place. For those of you who, maybe not behind the scenes so much with conferences, yeah, you sort of scout out places, you figure it out, you get the contract going, you work out a good deal, and then you put the call out for speakers, and then that's a whole process, and people vote, and people who got a lot of people attending their talk before get an invite, and blah blah blah. Because I have actually, I don't normally talk about this professionally, because it's part of like service, it's part of giving back to astrology. But yeah, I've been part of organizing a couple of conferences now, and I get it. It is an
A
endeavor,
big
but
deal.
it's family. It's a big deal,
Mhm.
but it's also family, and it's also
And we're
exciting
gonna
and beautiful.
and we're gonna do it by committee. I have this
Mm.
thing about me. I mean, Pluto's moving into Aquarius. We got Saturn moving into Pisces. It's that
Oh,
we're
God help
going
me.
into different energy.
You said
And
Pluto and Aquarius, and my stomach just flipped, because I'm an Aquarius sun, right? And you are an
right,
Aquarius rising. So how about
right.
that? How about we leave people with some thoughts on that? What are your thoughts right now on Pluto in Aquarius?
Well, yes, and I have a different approach again.
Mhm.
Everything's different. Aquarius rising, got to be different. But I have a different relationship with the planets. Let me put it that way. I did 10 years ago. I was introduced to something called the Stargate, and I was at a workshop, and it was a small, little, intimate workshop. And so we actually went into the Stargate, and the channel said, "Call in the planets that you work with." And so mentally, I called them in because I was teaching a class at the time. And Nadiya, I was overcome with love. I could feel so much love coming from the planets. I know it sounds crazy, but
No,
the
it
other
sounds
part
right.
was
Mm.
I felt so much love for them. It was like this, it was it was shocking to me in a way, but it was so profound. I mean, tears were coming down my eyes. It was just this unconditional love. And then he said, "Go and see them." And I thought, like in a rocket ship, I wasn't, and then my consciousness just started to expand. And I could feel each one. They're all have a different frequency, as you could imagine. And I could feel them, feel them, feel them. And I got to Pluto and I thought, okay. And then I kept going out, out, out. And I became aware I was a teeny little speck called Linda, but I was also
Mm.
part of everything. And I think that's the Pisces, that's the oneness, that we have the potential of experiencing as Saturn goes through that. So, yeah. Anyway, so
Wow.
when we have outer planet transits, I look at them as a consciousness that wants the best for us, and that they're not here to make our lives miserable, that they're here to help us. So Pluto, in my committee analogy, Pluto is like the soul's guide. And and we he his job is to make sure we stay on what we wanted to do. And so he gives you little hints. But if you don't follow them, sometimes he just has to pick you up and put you over here. And that's when it seems like, oh my God. But with Pluto, I always tell my clients, it's like the glyph is a little round thing. And then you got this thing here. And it's like, this is a hint, you know? It's like surrender, but not surrender like I give up, but surrender to the awareness that I'm in concert or I'm in partnership with something much wiser than little me I am. If I listen to my guidance, then it could be really quite profound and beautiful. So, yeah,
Wow.
that's,
And so the planets are a source of love, even if we don't, even if we're scared of it, even if we think, oh my God, it's a square or a really hard conjunction or something.
yeah,
No matter how we approach it, ultimately, whatever transit it is a source of love, is a new awakening of love. To think,
right, because
Pluto
people,
of love, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but people who've had a really difficult Pluto transit,
Oh
I mean,
yes.
sometimes they're just horrific, they get diagnosed with a horrible disease, or they're in a car accident, or something terrible happens. And then later, they say that was the best thing that ever happened to me. We hear that a lot, you know? And that's kind of a Pluto thing. It's like, if you're not paying attention, then you've got to give you tough love. But in the long run, you could look back and think, ah, now I understand why that happened. Because I was on the wrong track. I was not living, a conscious life. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, that helps me a lot.
That's
Like,
just these are Linda-isms, I call them. I
I
know,
love
you
it.
don't read them in books necessarily, but it just, if you listen with your heart, a part of you, if it's true for you, kind of goes, yeah, that can see that, you know? Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow. Well, I'm going to quote you on that to understand how every single transit is ultimately a call of love, a source of love, a presentation of love in a new way. It's our fear that kind of might get in the way, but ultimately it is love. Because,
mhm.
yes, you're right. I think about how I've been through several Pluto conjunctions in my life. And yeah, they're not the easiest transits, but my goodness, they lead to, I mean, it's like, I'll give you an example. I had an experience recently when I was, I connected with somebody. I was in Toronto. Toronto is home. I was born and raised there, right? I did my undergrad there and everything. So, anyways, I met up with somebody and we were walking, and we happened to walk by the apartment building that I lived in for 10 years in downtown Toronto. And that apartment, I remember at the time, so many people thought, oh, wow, your life is so fabulous and you've got the downtown Toronto life. And I thought my life was so fabulous. But while I walked down, I realized I had no idea how small my life actually was living there. Like, I can't even imagine being there again, because compared to now, that was so small. And I think about how 2 years ago, when I left my ex, I was with him for 7 years. And I happened to have in Cancun, and I happened to have like a a layover in Cancun a few months ago. And so I was like sort of around that area, and I went by the building that I had lived in with him. And I thought, everybody looked at my life like, wow, she lives in Cancun. It's so fabulous. But actually, my life was so small in comparison to what it became. And it was so painful. There was so many painful transits happening in my chart that made me say, okay, I gotta leave this. I've given everything I have. Now I'm drained. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore, to leave that relationship. But wow, on the other side, 2 years later, you're right. It's a whole other way to understand. It's love. You're right. It's love. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Linda, you're going to
yeah.
make me cry. Wow. Wow. Thank you for
Yeah,
that perspective. It's exactly what I needed right now. Thank you.
you're welcome. Because if you go into it with fear, if it's like, oh my God, Pluto's going to be on my ascendant, then that's the energy that you create with. But if you go in with, like Saturn moving into Pisces, I have it stellium in Pisces. And so it's like, that could be, oh my God, it's Saturn, yada, yada. But I'm looking forward to it, because it's like, if I use the energy of Saturn to kind of manifest all this Pisces stuff, or to bring structure to all the Pisces stuff, then it's used in a positive way. It's not happening to me, it's happening with me, or for me. But it's like you don't have that fear going in, because you can't stop it. We can't stop transits. And so we might as well look at who it is, who's coming to visit, and consciously choosing, how do I want to make the most of this? You know? And it'll change the outcome.
Yeah. And
rather than
sometimes,
be, you know, the victim, but you become the creator.
yeah. And also, sometimes it can work out better than anything you could have imagined for yourself. I think you know that as a Pisces.
Absolutely.
Me with my
Yes.
Pisces at midheaven. Yeah, it can work out even better than anything you could have imagined for yourself. I never imagined a life as astrologer for myself. Never would
Me
have.
either.
Yeah, right. It's something that
No.
chooses you. It's not,
Mhm.
I don't know too many people who are like, yeah, astrologer, that's a career path for me. It's not something you're thinking. It really is. It comes,
Mhm.
it visits, it changes you, and you have to follow.
Mhm.
It's this prompt that cannot be ignored, and it's a powerful thing. Wow, Linda,
And
you
you
are a
recognize
powerful
it's such a
thing.
gift.
Sorry, what?
It's such a gift. Astrology is such a gift.
Yeah,
I think it's just, we're so blessed, those of us who understand astrology and who embrace it. I think, we're very, very blessed. Yeah.
we truly are. Linda, thank you
Mhm.
once again, everybody. Linda is going to be at Synchronicity University as part of the March 2023 speaker series. You've got just a couple weeks left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class. Now, wow, I feel like just talking to you for this period of time has changed the way I understand so much right about now. Like right now, I'm thinking, oh my God, I want to meditate. I want to go on the terrace and I just want to give Pluto love right now. Like that's really how I feel. Wow, I can imagine how many
Mhm.
people are feeling that way in light of whatever difficult transit they're going through or went through, or they know something heavy duty is coming up, like Pluto and Aquarius. Wow, to just give it love. I think that changes everything. You're so right. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for
Mhm.
just your perspective and your heart. I'm really looking forward to your talk.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. Appreciate
And
it.
thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Until we connect again, take care. Bye.
Okay.